Hey, you know what time it is? It's Balloon Talk Tuesday. It's September. No, it's not September. It's February 9th. But let me tell you, doesn't it feel like September? Like the year just seems like, well, a repeat of last year, but let's not go there. But let's get the show started. So it's another edition of Balloon Talk Tuesday. And today it is this won't be so glitchy today because it seems like it's going to be one of those shows. But be safe out there. If it's snowing where you are, cold where you are, stay warm. And if you're in the South and it's cold, well, I don't feel bad for you at all. Enjoy that warm weather when you can. So we're excited to bring to you a great show today because I'm excited to introduce our guest today. And our guest, if you don't know who he is, you're going to know who he is because in my mind, this is how I know our guest. I know him by the big bag of balloons. So we're going to talk with Marty Pants today and see how he got his start in balloons and see how his transition has gone through COVID because it's really cool to see how he's kind of transformed his business. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Marty Pants.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
So how's it going in Chicago? Is it snowing or is
it cold? It is snowing a lot. And it snowed last week. And we're like, okay, we have some snow. And I shoveled. And then it snowed again. So I shoveled again. And now it's snowing again. And I feel like nature's just kind of messing with us. It keeps snowing. Sometimes people are like, we snowed. That's it. But it keeps snowing.
Right. It's kind of funny. Like, I guess we can't go to the gym. So you got to get the cardio in somehow.
The upside of all of the snow is I don't have anywhere to go. So let it snow. Let it snow. Where am I going to go? As long as it's snowing in my house, we're good.
Yep. So tell us a little about how you got started in balloons. Like, how did it all start for you?
How did I get started? Some people get into show business. Oh, I was a theater major. Some people are like, oh, I was a tech and I kind of got on stage. So I didn't come in through the front door. I didn't come in through the back door. I kind of like jumped in through the window, so to speak. I was in college, like a lot of people, and I graduated and I was unemployed and I didn't know what to do. I was a geology major, kind of a rocky start with that one. And I didn't have a job. So I moved back in with my parents. And some of you know, that is awesome. You get to sleep in your old bed. Your mom is asking you when you're going to sleep and where you're going. So that wasn't going to work out. So I needed a job, like quickly. And I looked in the newspaper for a job. And that sounds like a very old-fashioned sentence now. But I'm old enough that was something that people did. And I saw a posting. It said, energetic men wanted for engaging opportunities in show business. And that, who knows what that could be. So I called them up and they said, we run an entertainment business and we need people to wear the big heads. We're talking Elmo, Purple Dinosaur, Barney. Barney's the worst. So I said, what does it pay? It paid $75 a party, which is better than nothing. The downside to big heads is that they smell like barf. They're really hot and kids want to kick. There's always one kid that just wants to punch you right in the junk. So after a while, I said, you know what? This isn't working out for me. I enjoy like the $75 a party, but I don't like anything else. She goes, well, here's what you could do. If you know how to do 12 balloons in this book, we can send you out as a clown. Well, then, hello. That was great. no giant heads that smell like barfs, and 12 balloons, that's like 7 more than a lot of balloon twisters knew at the time.
Right.
So I learned the 12 balloons. It was a cat, a hat, a dog, a sword, a magic wand, a bracelet, a mermaid, a Spider-Man, and your wild card. You had to learn how to make one fancy balloon so that when people said, "Do you know how to make a SpongeBob?" You're like, "No, but how about a rocket ship?" So I learned 12 balloons, and then I started going out doing balloons. And I said, "This is pretty good, but I feel like we could learn more than 12." That seemed, everyone at the company said, "Oh no, you just need to know 12 balloons. That's all you need." And I'm like, I think I could learn more. I went to Twist and Shout, and that kind of like clicked into my mind that you could make way more than 12 balloons, and that's where it started from. And that's how I started making balloons and how I got into this crazy business.
Wow, it's amazing to hear that, obviously balloon convention or a convention of any sort had an influence to kind of open your mind to what's capable with balloons. Everybody just kind of hears like, oh, this is a balloon, but they don't really hear the long story of a long twisty balloon, and they don't really know what they can be made with those.
Mind blown, mind blown. It was Twist and Shout I was living in Austin, Texas at the time. I walked into the Austin Hyatt and I saw a lot of like big names that everyone knows, and just my mind was, I had my little hand pump and I had my little like bag of balloons that were still in the Qualitex bag. If you have your balloons still in the Qualitex bag, you should get like a nicer bag. But at the time, we're starting, we're a little rough around the edges. So that was it. And then I got in love with balloons, and I've been doing this since 2002, which sounds like a very old-fashioned sentence too.
So did you start with 12 colors, or did you start with 8 colors?
I was
Did you
always
your
I was always a Qualitex guy for some reason. I think it's less now, but back then, you had to kind of choose whether you were like a Coke or a Pepsi. Like Qualitex
Yep.
just became my balloon, and I would never touch any other balloons. Now I'm like, oh, I do whatever, I use whatever balloons But back then, I was like very strictly a Qualitex. I think even in the balloon world, we're like, oh, the Qualitex people stick together. The Bataltex people, they have their own lunch, But, and then I started making balloons, and then I got really into, very simply, making lots of balloons for people like lots of people would do. And then about 10 years ago, a librarian called me. She said, "We know we have you booked to make balloons at our library event. We're going to have way more kids than we think that we're going to have. And there's no way you're going to make balloons for all these kids." And you run into those problems when you take these kinds of events making balloons. She goes, "Why don't you just do your balloon show instead? And then you can entertain everybody." And I said, "That sounds like a great idea." And I hung up the phone and I said, "What the heck is a balloon show?" I already agreed to it. So I had about a month to come up with what exactly is a balloon show. What is a balloon show? Nobody knows. That's the best part. You just come up with whatever you want to do. So I originally started as a balloon twister, and they've sort of transitioned into doing more of a theatrical balloon show.
Denise just joined us.
Hi, Denise.
Heidi's also joined us.
What year did I get my start? So I would say officially 2002. So I'm coming up on 20 years, which makes me seem very old-fashioned. But about 2002, I moved to Austin, Texas, and I said, this is my chance to jump in full-time. I have no other jobs. I have no other options. This is it. You jump right in the pool and you say, this is it. You're going full-time. So I'm coming up on about 20 years.
So basically 20 years. Let's talk about colors, and let's talk about the transformation of what colors have become between brands. Obviously, everybody has kind of the same color scheme for the most part, but let's just talk like the introduction of chrome, reflex, titanium, all those. I mean,
chrome is a real game changer. I actually do a magic trick where I take a regular balloon, a red dog, and I wrap it in aluminum foil. And then when you unwrap the aluminum foil, it's a chrome dog. And people are like, how did that happen? Well, if you're a balloon twister, you know that they make dogs in chrome, but the average 99% of the people out there have no idea. So this is some amazing magic trick. This is mind-blowing. So you can really, even without the magic, I find chrome is like a real game changer. If I could make every balloon in chrome, I would. They're really, people are very amazed at the chrome balloons. That's probably my all-time favorite balloon right now.
I think when they introduced that, I think that was like the culmination of like, wow, they didn't have this sooner, or wow, you know what I'm saying? It was just, And the demand for it in the beginning, I mean, well, the demand now because of the pandemic, that's a whole different story. But the demand for it has just been truly remarkable. I mean, not even to be able to keep up production.
I had to pull some strings there. A lot of places said, "Oh, we're sold out of Chrome." I'm like, I'll meet you by the back door after hours and give me a brown paper bag that has one bag of Chrome." But I mean, Qualtex always made metallic gold and metallic silver, and they were okay. They weren't terrible. They weren't okay. But Chrome really looks like real metal. I mean, when you see them, you're like, wow, you can't do those in a sunny spot or you'll go blind.
Right. So, tell us a little bit about kind of the 20 years that you've been in balloons. That's a long time. Um, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that big balloon show at the library probably was kind of a turning point when you had a month to kind of think about that. So, how did you kind of pull that together? Because, well, let's be honest, it takes time, energy, and effort.
It did. I said, well, here's what I said. I said in the beginning, I said, no one can create an entire 35-minute show in a month. It's impossible. So what I'll do is I'll just write a list of all the things you can do with balloons, and we'll do our best. So what can you do with balloons? Well, you can make balloons on stage, and that could be okay. It could be very boring. It could be exciting. You add a little music, you add a little razzle dazzle. So that was a quick transition. And I see lots of people twisting balloons, and if they're doing it in a fun way, well, that's kind of a show already. And then you add some jokes in there, and you have things that you are prepared to say. And then you can do balloon storytelling. And balloon storytelling's been around for a while, even something simple as Three Little Pigs. And then, I have lots of balloon books and balloon magic. The old needle through the balloon, that's been around forever. So in the beginning, I was like, wow, this is going to be really hard. And then you thought, well, balloons have there's a lot of different things you can do with balloons. You can make balloons. You can tell stories with balloons. You can do balloon magic. You can even, a lot of the fancy balloons, you can just blow up balloons. People sometimes are really amazed. I mean, we kind of overlook that. They're really amazed at the idea of just balloons being created from nothing. So in retrospect, I think the show came together quicker because I cheated a little bit. Balloons are really amazing and people really like them already. So there wasn't that far to go to create the show.
Right. Now, what would you say to anyone who's trying to create a show for the first time?
What would I say? I would say you can cheat a little bit. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of balloon magic that doesn't belong to anyone. Things like needle through balloon has been around forever. Things like balloon storytelling. Just look at the balloons you have, and the ideas will come from that. And also, don't be afraid. Just get right into it. Is your show going to be great right away? Probably not. But this is something that takes practice, and this is something that takes lots of enthusiasm. So a lot of times, enthusiasm will cover up maybe your lack of skill in the beginning. I see a lot of people that are very lackadaisical. They're maybe magicians that present great technical skills, but they're not really connecting with the audience. So I feel like if you're happy to do what you're doing and you're very enthusiastic, your audience will like you, and that will kind of cover up maybe some less polished parts of your show in the beginning.
Right. So what would you say, since Twist and Shout got you your start, and that's kind of when you really, was introduced to the higher level of balloons, what would you say about your first balloon experience at a balloon convention?
Of course I was intimidated because I didn't know anybody. I came by myself. I really didn't. And this was even, believe it or not, before Facebook. So I really didn't know anybody. Now we have a chance to talk to people we may never have met in person. We're doing StreamYard right now. You can meet people that you've never, but I really didn't know anyone. I was very intimidated. But one thing I do love about balloons and the balloon community, it's a very welcoming community. If you have balloons and you're excited about balloons, you're in. There isn't a lot of clicks. There isn't a lot of well, you haven't been doing balloons for long enough. We're looking for new people to come in, and we try, at least I try to, and I think most people do. We want you in the club. You're in. If you show up, you're in. So I find that balloon conventions are a great way to meet people, to learn, to get inspired. There's very little downside. I mean, yeah, you spend some money and you might eat too much. But other than that, I feel like balloon conventions are really, really a great way to kind of get better at what you're doing.
Well, you can always just keep swallowing the balloons and just pull the magic trick out,
Yeah, I mean.
So tell us a little bit about, obviously the pandemic, COVID hit. doing a lot of library shows, a lot of in-person balloon twisting, things like that. And then abruptly, all of a sudden, there's a lockdown, and then there's like, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? I think that should be the bumper sticker for 2020. What am I going to do? And like a lot of people, I got really upset. I got really nervous. I mean, seeing your entire calendar that you've worked, we book gigs in advance. We work hard to get these gigs on our calendar, and seeing them disappear, kind of like the snap in Avengers, Infinity War, where every gig starts disappearing, and then having to give deposits back. I take deposits for a lot of events, having to give the money back. Fortunately, I didn't spend the money already. Lots of people did that. Not a good idea. Having to give money back, that's even worse. So what am I going to do? Well, after a month of hiding under the covers and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't want to do anything, I said, well, what are my options here? Well, I do a show already. So my options are A, doing a virtual show, which seemed very complicated in the beginning, but is really not. And how do I get balloons to people? A lot of people did yard art right away, and that was something that was very popular. And I said to myself, well, if a lot of people are already doing something, then maybe think of something else. So in addition to virtual shows, I said, why don't I do the big bag of balloons? And that kind of came to me. Yep, that's it. It came to me it really came to me as a result of doing the virtual shows, because normally in live shows after the event, I give all the balloons to the client, or sometimes I give them out to the party, or I give them at the library, they display them. Well, after a virtual show, what was I supposed to do with the balloons? I had a house full of balloons. I don't need any more balloons in my house. After the shows, I would find people, my daughter's friends, I would give them away. And I said, well, if I'm giving away these awesome balloons, maybe we can sell them. And that's where the idea came from, to say, originally it was all the balloons that I made for the show that were really amazing balloons. I would deliver them to your house and you would give me some money. And then it got popular enough that I started making balloons specifically for the deliveries.
So yeah, that's kind of like what I think about, like, how your transformation went, even though I see some of your virtual shows coming back, into the mainstream, I honestly associate you with the big bag of balloons.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. People are like, oh, I find that yard art, a lot of it, I did a few installations, and a lot of it is a lot of the same thing. And that's why I really was never that interested in decor. It's a lot of formulas. And sometimes there's people who love doing that. They say, I know how to make a column. I love doing it because I know I just follow the formula and it's going to be perfect every time. For me, I come from a different angle where I'm a little bit more improv, a little bit more freeform. I was never big on the decor. The big bag of balloons I like because I just make whatever I want. It's 25 balloons, and I tell the clients, I say, it's going to be, I don't, market it as I make whatever I want. You'll get it. You'll like what you get. But if you use the word surprises, then that becomes way more interesting. So I say you're going to get 25 surprises. Some of them are going to be hats. Some of them are going to be animals. Some of them are going to be amazing characters that like cartoon characters. And some of them are going to be just whatever crazy balloon I felt like making. And then when I deliver it, it's going to be very exciting because you're going to get this giant bag of balloons and you're not going to know what it is. And you and your kid and your family are going to have a blast pulling 25 to 30 balloons out of this giant bag. So that's kind of the angle that I came up with early on. And I think it's been working pretty well.
Now, let's go back for a minute. You talked about how obviously things would disappear from the calendar. Let's be real. What has your approach been to taking care of the customer, whether they're first timers or they're customers that have been around for a while? How have you been able to grasp that? Because let's be honest, if you have 100 customers and they're $400 paying customers, that's $40,000. And then, like, what do you do?
I mean, first thing I did was I go with the customer base I already have. A lot of people were trying to drum up new business, yard art, this and that. I said, let's kind of give a pass on the people we already have. So when this hit, I went to everyone I had done birthday parties for who already knew me. I said, I'm doing this new big bag of balloons delivery. I can't do your kid's party, but you know me already, and you know the balloons I do, and these will be the balloons that you know that I make. These aren't going to be just a bunch of 260 dogs and swords. So we're kind of giving a pass to the customer base you already have that already knows you was valuable. Fortunately, I've been doing this long enough that I had a good base of customers. And I think that on the other hand, I think that they wanted to support me. They knew things were pretty disastrous for someone like me. And they allow them, obviously have regular jobs that they could work at home. They still were getting a paycheck. And they said, we want to help you out. We like you. You've done a great job for us in the past. We want to hook you up. We're going to order a big bag of balloons, even if we don't necessarily have to have one. We're going to give you an order because we like you. We want to keep you in business, and we feel bad that this has happened to you. So I wouldn't say it was pity. I like to say more like good old-fashioned support for a business that you like, just like people will order in from a restaurant that they like. They don't want that restaurant going out of business. They may not be comfortable eating there, but they'll order a takeout because they don't want that favorite restaurant going out of business when this is over. So
absolutely. I mean, I think the reality is, I mean, a lot of people kind of look around, and people who are already struggling 6 months prior to the pandemic were just struggling even more into the pandemic. And now that it's been a year, I think a lot of people really had a hard time that were already having a hard time prior to the pandemic, so it's made it a lot harder for a lot of those. And at the end of the day, you got to kind of do what's best. Sometimes I know a lot of people, and I know sometimes people don't like views, but sometimes, just giving a good old refund, no matter how good your contract is, can be the best. But I actually just read something where someone had commented that they had a court case over it, and they actually had to pay the customer back. I'm like, why would you go to that extreme? So definitely interesting to see how, customers who maybe didn't even need a big bag of balloons actually help support you.
Yeah, and as far as the deposits go, like I said, fortunately, I didn't have to already spend the deposit. If you're spending the money that you're making in the future, sometimes that's not the best business plan. Fortunately, we're in a position to give it back. But I gave it was like ripping off a Band-Aid. I gave the deposits back very quickly because the longer you kind of drag it out, it just sends bad feelings. And hopefully this pandemic isn't permanent. I said, if you give customers a hard time with the deposits and canceling, they're going to leave you a bad review. And that's going to have a lot longer lasting bad effects than a year-long, hopefully, pandemic. So I tried to be very good with people. I said, I understand. People who even really wanted to reschedule, I said, listen, let's just cancel it. And if you want to reschedule, we'll reschedule and we'll start fresh. But I don't want to keep your deposit and keep this kind of thing dragging on. Because as we've learned, none of us really kind of expected this to go on that long. And events that I had in April that they wanted to reschedule for June, July, that obviously didn't happen. So I think that when you treat your customers right as a business, this was kind of a big bump in the road, but we still go with those base principles. Just treat your customers well, and then they'll appreciate that.
How has your supply chain been as far as twisting balloons? Because let's dissect this for a minute. A decorator has a different situation than someone who's a twister.
For me, I took kind of an approach. Obviously, when this hit, you have to say, okay, where are our expenses, and where are our expenses that we could look at to kind of cut right now. I realized that I was a little bit of an obsessive balloon buyer. I really love balloons, and a lot of times when I'd place an order, I need some more orange or some more yellow. Well, let's throw 8 or 10 more bags of some other balloons in there that I might not have really needed, but I wanted to have just to try. So when this really hit, I did sort of an overhaul of my inventory, which I had not done in a very long time, and I realized that I had a lot of balloons already. So my approach was, let's make balloons for the show and for the delivery of balloons I already had. And that was kind of a fun game for me to say, what can I make using the balloons that I already have? So that was my approach. The deliveries have gotten busy enough that I've had to reorder some balloons, but in the beginning, I really wanted to say, let's use the inventory we have right now before we start buying up more inventory.
I think it's kind of funny. I come from a background where I've purchased 15,000 of the same product in the past, back in 2014. And what I find is most of the time, buying more doesn't always mean cheaper. That's the reality. You already get your base price, but generally I'm finding that in this in this era, a lot of manufacturers are kind of cutting out distributors, and really just everything in balloons has changed a lot, and really, just as much as we all want to buy tons of balloons, sometimes buying tons of balloons isn't always the best, depending on the colors we use. Tell us a little bit about your worst colors that you would buy but don't last long.
The colors that I really don't like, or the colors that I like a lot? I don't quite understand.
The colors that don't really cooperate in a long window compared to like the whites, the reds, things like that?
I've honestly, I feel like a lot of the quality has gone up since, like I feel like years ago, balloons had a much shorter lifespan. It might just be my own perception, but I find that balloons last a little longer than they used to. There was really a ticking time clock for balloons. If you didn't use them up soon, I'm also a little bit better about keeping my balloons stored properly. I keep
Right.
them
Yep.
cool. I don't keep them in the heat. But there are. I find that rounds usually tend to last longer. Of course, the twisting balloons are a little trickier with keeping fresh for a long time. I've had rounds, that have lasted a really long time. But normally I try to not keep balloons laying around that long.
Right. So what would your suggestion be to someone who's just starting out balloon twisting, who is that looking for that 6 designs currently but wants more? What do you suggest for them?
What do I suggest? I suggest there's lots of people that just do just enough. They make 12 balloons. They're okay. We've all seen, a dog, a sword, a hat, a cat. If you can do a little bit better than what the majority of people are not on Facebook balloon groups. They're not on, they're not buying downloads. If you can do better than what the average person thinks balloon twisting is, you've already jumped ahead of the pack. It doesn't take that much more effort or skill. And when I say skill, it doesn't even take that much skill. I mean, a lot of this is just follow directions and practice. I've never had a artistic skill in my life. I can't draw. I've never been an artistic person. It's just practice. If you can do better than what the average person thinks balloons are, then you're doing great. People will notice and they'll say, wow, that guy is making really better balloons than I've seen in the past.
I find that's true because you take a magician who does the basic, let's say 612 designs, but they're all doing the same twists that if you just put more twists and more effort into it, it's not that much more, and you could have more work ultimately.
Yeah, and I also would add a lot of balloon twisters just stick with 260s, and that's all they do. And they even have just basic 12 colors. Get different balloons in the mix. They're not very expensive. I think 160s sometimes are even cheaper. 160s, 350s. Get some geos in the mix. Change it up a little bit because again, we think, of course there are different size balloons, 160s, 260s, but the average person has no clue. They don't understand that the balloons come in 646s. So if you can get a variety of different sizes in your sculptures, people will definitely notice and they'll say, wow, I've never seen balloons that look like that. So I feel like surpassing what expectations people have, and their expectations are generally low. You'll do well. You'll do well right off the bat.
What do you see coming out of the pandemic? I mean, we don't know when that is, but what do you see the industry heading towards once everybody's ready to party?
It's hard to say. A lot of people will say, Azusa is over, parties are going to go crazy. Everyone's going to be super crazed to have big parties and gatherings and birthdays, and that would be great. We all would like to to kind of make up for all the crappy year we had passed and have an awesome year coming up. And that could happen. But what I know for sure that's going to happen is things like this. We're getting better connected through things like StreamYard, Facebook Live, virtual shows. I don't think these things are going away. I think they will complement what we will consider normal life, but I don't think we're going to go back to the pre-pandemic. The things we've learned to get through the pandemic, I think we're going to stick with. People, the exchange of knowledge, things like balloon shows like this one are going to hopefully stick around. I think they're very valuable.
So tell us a little bit about your home life versus your business life and how things have been different with via homeschooling or whatnot it be. I mean, I don't know. I think 3 months were fine, and then it seemed like after 3 months, a lot of parents it's a lot of work, right?
It is. I think that it's sort of paradoxical that I'm home all the time. So technically I should be getting so much work done. I don't have anywhere to go. Everyone's home. But I think it's the opposite. I think that it used to be my daughter would go to school and I would get to work, and then she'd come home from school and I'd say, okay, work is done. time to hang out with my family, spend time with them, or I have a gig, I come home, my gig is over. It's all very hazy now. It's hard to, the boundaries of work and home are all blurred. And I think that is not necessarily the most productive setup. A lot of people have very strict schedules. I have trouble sticking to things like that. So my thought is I do what I can do, and I try not to beat myself up over what I didn't do. I think a lot of people in the pandemic, we look for small victories. If we have small accomplishments, then you consider that a victory. I think a lot of people put way too much pressure on themselves, having to write their novel or come up with their greatest balloons of all time in the pandemic. I think we just do what we could do, and you kind of hopefully ride this out, and hopefully we get back to some sense of normalcy at some point.
What's the best tip you would give to somebody, whether they're new or experienced for a while, given everything going on and just in general?
Um, as far as business goes, something that I've learned the hard way, and I will say that I was not always as smart as I am now. Sometimes you win the battle and you'll lose the war. This goes back to something like the deposits. Your contract says deposits are non-refundable. That means non-refundable. I don't give you back your money. You won that battle, but you lost that war. Um, that's not the best way to run your business. Somebody gets a bag of balloons, if you're a distributor, and they're not the right for them, and you say there's no refunds. You say, well, I'll take that balloon back because then I'll keep you as a customer forever instead of the no refunds. And maybe they're sore about an $8 bag of balloons and you've lost yourself a customer that was paying you thousands of dollars. So look at the big picture. Sometimes you have rules. Sometimes you want to bend the rules a little bit. I usually do my deliveries at 10 o'clock in the morning, so it doesn't kill my whole day. I try to get it wrapped up by noon. Somebody said, I really want the delivery at 4 o'clock. So I did it at 4 o'clock. Do I want to do deliveries at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? No. But if I say no, then they may not have the delivery at all. And A, I've lost that customer. And B, in her mind, she'll be like, Smarty wasn't that easy to work with. Maybe I won't recommend him to somebody else. So look at the big picture, kind of, I guess, look at things from your customer's perspective and try to make them happy. That doesn't mean be a total pushover, but try to look for a win-win on both sides is a good key to business.
Well, it looks like we have a question from the audience, so let's post that up.
Make me a bicycle clown. I don't know if like I said, a comeback. Sometimes people say that because they think they're being funny, and they want to kind of show you that they know something about balloons. So what do? I say, you got it. And I have a really good bicycle. And I feel like that is a win-win. Personally, I'd like to be like, F off. That's kind of a stupid thing to say. It's annoying, but they don't think it's annoying. They think it's funny. So if they think it's funny and cute, then I pretend like it is. So what would I say? My best comeback is, sorry, I'm going to tell my dog to stop barking, is make a good bicycle, or even this a decent bicycle, or even just like a regular bicycle. And then they get their bicycle and they think you're so great. They think you're so funny because they said, make me a bicycle clown, and you made them a bicycle. And then they go tell all their friends how Smarty the clown made them a bicycle. So that's what I would say is my best comeback is not really a comeback at all.
And any last minute marketing tips for someone who really tries to do it themselves, but let's be real, sometimes it's hard. What kind of marketing tips do you have?
What marketing tips I give is, that's a good question. Marketing tips. I think being professional is a low bar, but sometimes I try and answer emails very quickly. I try and answer phone calls quick. I try and get back with people. You don't believe how many people more when I was doing birthday parties where I called them and they never got back to me, or I emailed and I never heard back, or they showed up late to the party, or they didn't send a thank you note out. I sent a thank you note after the party. It takes me literally 1 second to type out I have a template. I print it out. I put it in an envelope, and they say, I can't believe you threw me a thank you note. So it's a low bar for some people. Unfortunately, it's a low bar in a lot of businesses. And if you can go above that, people will notice. And that's a great marketing plan. You don't have to be the greatest balloon twister. You don't even have to run the greatest business. Personally, you have to be better than the worst. And that sounds weird, but that sometimes it's hard to be the best, but better than the worst. I can be better than the worst. And sometimes when you just go in that mindset, be better than the worst, you'll relax and you will be better than trying to hit that, I have to be the best, which sometimes makes people anxious. And it's paradoxical. If you try to be the best, you probably won't. But if you try to be better than the worst, you probably will.
Well, we just want to thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to kind of tell us a little about yourself and kind of what's been going on. And hopefully, you all found this informational, and you'll be able to be encouraged to move your business in the right direction. I know some people kind of in the middle, some people really at the bottom, and some people at the top. And I just want to reiterate. One customer said, "I need the venues to open." Like that was that was their thing. I need the venues to open. Well, if you're waiting for the venues to open, I'm sorry to say, but maybe you need to reevaluate the whole business in general, because you're waiting on something that we don't even know when that is, and you just have to be super careful. And like Smarty said, moving your business to Yada or something like that, you have to be better than what the consensus of those creations are being made. Like somebody sent me a photo and they're like, "Can you make this for me?" It's like, can I make that for you? It's like everybody else is making the same thing,
Yeah, I would agree. Try to see what everyone else is doing and figure out what you can do that's different. And sometimes that is 90% of it.
Well, thanks for joining us, Smarty Pants. And I'll always remember you as the big bag of balloons.